and Canadians were also among the passengers. It's now being reported that the pilots cited difficulties and asked to turn back.
We were sure our relative was going to come out. After a few minutes, we saw some news on Facebook and Twitter just flying Ethiopian airline crashes, and when we look at the time, it was the same time he was actually to leave Ethiopia.
After I got information, somebody told me that it has come a breaking news that the Ethiopian Airlines has got an accident.
President Cyril Ramaphosa has expressed his great sadness and has extended the government's condolences to those affected by this morning's crash. The president says the thoughts of South Africans are with the affected countries, especially the people of Ethiopia and Kenya. The South African diplomatic missions in both Nairobi and Addis Ababa are in contact with the airline to determine whether any of those on board were travelling with South African passports.
This morning, we awoke to the news of the plane that crashed in Ethiopia, where we hear 150 people were killed in a plane crash out of Addis Ababa on Ethiopian Airlines. And as South Africans and the government of South Africa, we pass our condolences. A plane crash that kills so many people is always a very, very harrowing experience that is very, very terrifying to the families. So we pass our condolences also to the families as to the government of Ethiopia. I will be talking to the Prime Minister of Ethiopia later this day to pass our condolences. So we're very sad that an incident like that has happened.
Well, for more on this developing story, we're now joined on the line by our correspondent in Nairobi, that's Sarah Kimani. Good afternoon, Sarah. Sarah, can you tell us where exactly in Nairobi you are right now? It does look like you're outside the airport and some very anxious friends and relatives at the airport at this stage, one can imagine.
Yeah. Yes, indeed, I'm at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. This was the final destination of Ethiopian Airlines flight number 8302, which was supposed to arrive here at about 10 a.m. Of course, it did not get here because it crashed just 6 minutes after takeoff. What we have here is a few relatives who have been able to come in to try and get information on learning that indeed this plane crashed. And they're being moved from this place behind me here and taken to one of the hotels still within the airport, where they are now being briefed on what happened. We understand there were 32 Kenyans aboard that flight. There were also 7 Italians who we know now that were coming for a meeting here, which is due to start tomorrow. A lot of the people, if you listen to the nationalities that were in that airline, it is clear that most of them were coming for the United Nations Environment Assembly, which is due to begin here in Nairobi tomorrow.
Do we at this stage know if any South Africans were on board?
Well, from the list that we have, the list that the Transport Minister of Kenya has given, we know that all the people that are there were no nationalities as yet that could be said to be South African. However, there are 2 people who traveled on UN diplomatic passports, so we still do not know their nationalities. And those are the 2 people that the Kenyan government says they still do not know their nationalities. There were 35 nationalities aboard that flight.
We do understand that the airline is to hold some sort of press briefing. Do you have any information on that for us?
Yes, indeed. They have issued a press briefing a few minutes ago where they said that the pilot of that ill-fated plane actually spoke to the control tower at the Bola International Airport and said he was experiencing difficulties and he wanted to land to go back to the airport. And indeed, he had been granted permission to go back and land at the Bola International Airport. But unfortunately, he crashed before he could turn back and get back to the Bola International Airport. Now, the Kenyan government has really taken up this issue and is issuing hourly updates. And the reason is because there were 32 Kenyans. We understand some of them may be very senior government officials. And so this evening, the Kenyan government will be sending a delegation back to Addis Ababa, Ethiopia 1, to help identify the remains of those who perished in that crash, but also to help, as the minister said, to help the Ethiopian government with investigations and any logistical issues or any logistical help that they may need to be able to deal with this very sad moment in that country.
Sarah, what do you know about the safety record of this airline in particular when it comes to its reputation in the aviation world? It is known to be a jewel in the crown of African airlines at this point.
Indeed, it's only a profit-making national carrier on the continent, very successful indeed. But what we know for sure is that it also has a very nice safety record. It flies to almost all international destinations across the world and from Bola International Airport, and it also has a lot of connections from here. Indeed, Ethiopian Airlines is standing out to take the place of other African airlines, national carriers that have failed probably due to issues of profitability and logistical issues. And it has a very nice safety record. The last time an Ethiopian airline flight had an accident is about 8 or 9 years ago. So quite a healthy safety record, so to speak.
Sarah, do we know at this point, I know you're in Nairobi right now, how the rescue and search operations are going on or progressing in the town of Bishoftu, which is about, we understand, 60 kilometers southeast of the capital?
Yes, indeed. Ethiopian Airlines said that they had sent out a rescue and recovery effort team to go to the place called Bishoftu, where that accident happened. We do not know as yet if there are any survivors, but we heard from the Ethiopian national broadcaster that all the 157 passengers and crew members aboard that flight perished. So what they'll be doing now is recovery efforts. The Kenyan government and indeed the Ethiopian Airlines saying at this point they still do not know the cause of the crash, but it is important to say that this was a relatively new plane. It's only 4 months old, acquired by Ethiopian Airlines in November last year.
Sarah Kimani, our correspondent, coming to us from Nairobi in Kenya, updating us on the Ethiopian Airlines crash this morning, which has left 157 people dead. We will be crossing back to our correspondents in East Africa throughout the